Hey guys, welcome back to the channel on my video. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe, hit that like button, put all your comments, suggestions, and questions in the section below. And please continue to check out all of my content coming out. Moving forward, we're still going to be analyzing a lot of data, results, policies. Maybe we're even going to expand to other countries like Canada. They do have an election. So for all you Canadians out there, so I will also be covering the Canadian election coming up next October. Please, if you are Canadian or American or from anywhere and you really want to see that too, stay tuned for that coming out next year. My channel has continued past this election. It does not end at all. We're going to continue to be working these 4 years, doing what you guys of course want me to do. I'll take a lot of recommendations from my viewers. Now, these results are not final. Obviously, we still have more votes to count. We're at 93% counted, so we have 7% more votes to count. Donald Trump will win Arizona. I'm not sure why they haven't called that yet. So he will reach 312 electoral votes, and Harris will stay at 226. But the most surprising part of this election is really the popular vote margins. We did not expect Trump to win the popular vote by this much, even if he won it in general. He right now is leading the popular vote by 3 points. Now expect that to come down probably to around 2 points, given that California is the state that has the least amount of votes reported so far, like percentage wise. So expect that number to come down another percent probably, and Trump will probably end up winning the popular vote by 2%, which is not what I predicted at all. My popular vote projection was Trump winning the popular vote by like 1 point max, up to Kamala Harris winning it by 1 point. So I was running on the general consensus that the popular vote would end up being tied, but Trump actually did overperform my expectations a little bit. Not really too much in the swing states, more on those safe states. Taking a look at the trend from 2020, you guys can really see here, the trend was really all around the board. Ignore the West Coast because all the votes are not in, so they can't show those arrows. But really take a look at some of these areas that really shifted Republican, like Texas, where Trump won by 14 points. I mean, the general area in the South, apart from Atlanta suburbs, the southern and western Atlanta suburbs, but just all around up in the South and then all the way up in the Northeast, we have some pretty massive trends to the Republican Party. And it's really, really good that, they were able to make such a big trend. And, a lot of these counties, if you really look at them, these are a lot of minority counties, and a lot of these more white counties across the middle of the country, except for Iowa, we see a lot of trends in very black areas in the South, Hispanic areas down in Texas, in Florida, also a lot of areas that are very racially diverse up around the mid-Atlantic region, around New York City. So that's a big reason why Donald Trump was able to win the popular vote. Right now, he's in the majority, and she's still below 48%. And in today's video, we're going to quickly and thoroughly analyze some of these swing states. I'm going to start with the state that went to Trump the least amount, and we're going to up to the state that went to him by the greatest amount. Now, what most of us thought was that Wisconsin would actually be the most Republican state going into this election. But out of all the swing states, Wisconsin was the one that actually went to him by the least amount. He won Wisconsin by 0.9%, around 30,000 votes, which is a little more than what Joe Biden wanted by in the 2020 election. And this is a very, very close race. This was the closest race in the election. Wisconsin was actually closer than Michigan. I thought Michigan was going to be the closest state. The closest state was actually Wisconsin, so that's a big surprise right there. But what we saw in Wisconsin was, yes, Democrats got a lot of turnout in Dane County. Yes, they got a lot of turnout in Milwaukee County, but they actually shifted Republican. And the wild counties right here, these are the 3 biggest counties around the Milwaukee suburbs that are heavily Republican. They did actually move left by a little bit, but they were offset by urban gains among Trump in these 2 counties right here, Dane and Milwaukee, and very, very good trends in the rest of the rural areas that actually have quite a considerable amount of people when you really add them all up. Looking at this trend map, you can really see not huge trends at all. These are all very small trends. Milwaukee County and Dane County both shifting about a 1.5 Republican. Then you have Ozaukee, Washington, and Waukesha only shifting around a point to the left. But these bigger arrows around a lot of the rural and suburban areas of the state that are up to at least 5 points, and a lot of them, even the smaller ones over here, were still 3-point shifts, and those really add up there. And since Harris did not really gain anything in the suburbs, she wasn't able to offset the votes that Trump ended up gaining in the state of Wisconsin. And now moving on to the next state is going to be the state of Michigan. And Trump won Michigan despite me thinking he wouldn't win Michigan. He actually won Michigan by 1.4%. He won it by 80,000 votes to be exact. This is a state that Joe Biden actually won here by almost 3%. Joe Biden won the state by 250,000 votes. So this is one of the swing states where we saw one of the largest trends to the Republican Party. And this is a great deal because of the Detroit area. And what we know about the Detroit area is it is very racially diverse. Let me show you what I'm talking about with these swings. The swings across the state favored Trump, obviously. I'm zooming a little bit over here. But the trends that were most favorable to Trump were in Wayne County. This is an extremely racially diverse county with a lot of African Americans, even Hispanics, and the most special, apart from African Americans, we have a lot of Muslim voters. And Muslim voters this time around shifted heavily. They were a core voting group of the Democratic Party. And this election, they actually shifted very, very heavily to Donald Trump. I'm not sure of the exact results, but it was probably like over a 30-point shift to the right, especially in areas like Dearborn. And that right there has huge implications in a state that was close. But it wasn't just them. It was obviously a lot of African-American voters and white voters in a lot of these rural areas a lot. Even your Grand Rapids didn't really move too much. This is a left-trending county, but Kent County actually moved a little bit more Republican. Places like Flint, even Ann Arbor, where Washtenaw County is. But, we saw some good trends, 9.2% in Wayne County, 5.6% in Macomb, 3.5% in Oakland, that was able to move the state just enough for Trump to win it by a margin that is a lot larger than what I even expected, a 1.4%, larger than Wisconsin. So we're really going to see what's going to happen now in the 2028 election. Are we going to see a scenario in which the state of Michigan will continue to vote more right than Wisconsin? Because we all know Wisconsin usually and traditionally is the most Republican out of the 3 Rust Belt states. But this time around, things have changed. I'm not really sure if this trend will continue. But the fact that Trump won Michigan almost double the amount that he won Wisconsin, does show us a lot in the changing demographics in each of the party coalitions. Let us now move on to the next state by margin, and this is the state of Pennsylvania. And in the state of Pennsylvania, Trump won the state by 2.1%, which was actually a point better than what I had previously anticipated. Now, there are a lot of reasons why Trump did very well, especially in the state of Pennsylvania, and why out of all the 3 Rust Belt states we can see here, Trump actually won the state of Pennsylvania the most easily, the most decisively, and he actually, it was called pretty quickly on Fox News. Many other news networks had called Pennsylvania, and thus being able to give Trump the election pretty early in this cycle. And so we can see the trends once again in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's what I've been talking about a lot. It's really coming down, and it really came down to the eastern part of Pennsylvania, the part that Joe Biden is from. Joe Biden was able to do that, flipping Northampton County. He flipped back Erie County. Joe Biden did a lot of good trends in this area of the state, and Donald Trump was able to swing a lot of these counties back right by 7 points, 5 points, and also made improvements in Philadelphia and the Philadelphia suburbs without really having to do much in the rest of the state. I mean, the rest of the state, maybe he would have like very, very minor improvements, and even some of them, weren't moving at all. But, Pennsylvania always comes down to what happens around the Philadelphia area and the eastern part of the state. And since Donald Trump was able to make gains, like I said, like I predicted, he would be able to make gains among those working class white individuals, African American individuals in the Philadelphia area. Pittsburgh didn't really change because it didn't really matter too much in this election. So it all came down to the areas I was saying it would come down to. And so he was able to win this state by 2.1% and actually carry McCormick over the top. This is a Senate seat that Casey has been holding for a long time. He was actually able to pull McCormick over the top and win that election. So those are the three Rust Belt states. First, Donald Trump was able to win both of them by close margins, but actually a lot more than we expected. In the state of Pennsylvania, he has actually won by over 100,000 votes, by around 150,000 votes when all the votes are counted. Obviously, we still have a little bit of votes left, but most of them in the Rust Belt have already been completely counted. And now, going now to the Sun Belt, we're going to have North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona. And the next state that Donald Trump won by margin would be the state of Georgia, where he won by 2.2%, which is exactly what I had predicted he won by. And despite, a lot of suburbs in the southern area, because, they're growing a lot, due to that, they trended to the left by a little bit, as we can see right here, but they were completely offset with the rest of the state trending right. And that actually does include Fulton, DeKalb, and Gwinnett counties, which are the most populous counties in the Atlanta area, as well as a considerable amount of trending in the rest of the state, which includes a lot of heavy black areas. And that's a main theme among the southern area, the southern part of the U.S., and also obviously in a lot of rural or white areas in the state. And this state was only won by Joe Biden by 11,000 votes. So it didn't really take too much for the state to flip Republican. Most people thought that Trump would win the state. It would have been very hard to see these trends continue in the following cycle. But, I do think that if there's one state that Republicans are maybe in trouble in the next election, it would be the state of Atlanta, because this is the only state that really had a considerable area in the state that did trend left. So that's one state that Republicans might need to worry about in the future, but still were able to win by 2.2%. And, going to the closest neighbor to that would be the state of North Carolina. And this is a state that Donald Trump won by 3.4%. And we're actually going to go to Nevada first, because North Carolina has actually passed Nevada in the projections. The state of Nevada, this is another flip. This is actually a 5-point flip, maybe even a 6-point flip from the 2020 election, because Joe Biden actually won the state by 2.4%. Donald Trump has completely flipped that on his head. He has won the state by around 3.2%. I don't know why they round to 4%. I don't like how they do that. Most of the votes have been counted by now. Donald Trump has actually flipped back Washoe County. It did vote for Joe Biden. This is one of the only states that actually stayed the same margin from 2016 to 2020. Thus, we all kind of knew that this state would trend red, but the question was how much. I predicted that the state would trend a little bit to the right and Trump would win it by 1 point. He has exceeded those expectations. He has won the state by over 3 points, as we can see from here. And thus, Clark County came down to only a 2-point margin, and Joe Biden won it by 9. And I had previously said that if Clark County comes down to only 6 points, Donald Trump would probably win the state. And so him winning the state by 3 points, over 3 points, could really show us, a 6.6 trend. But the state as a whole is looking really good for Republicans in the near future. And now let's skip to North Carolina, because this is another state that Donald Trump did really well in. He won the state of North Carolina by 3.4%. This is a state that most people predicted he was going to win. He didn't really lose too much support in 2020. He won the state by 1.3%. Trends in the northeastern and north and southeastern greatly helped him from the loss in a lot of these other areas. But in this election, once again, he made considerable gains, larger gains in many areas, once again in the northeastern and southeastern part. And the rest of the state did not trend left to be able to counteract that like they did in the 2020 election. And actually Mecklenburg actually trended right. Wake County, Raleigh trended right, and Greensboro also trended right. So the biggest areas in the state, the biggest counties moved right. The western part of the state didn't really move too much. You had some counties to the left, some counties to the right. So that's kind of like a wash. So it was all really decided on what happened in this part of the state. Going off of the fact that this part already trended to the right in 2020, we could really say that this state has returned back to the margin that it was in the 2016 election. Trump winning the state by just over 3 points, him winning by 3.5 percentage points, exactly what the 2020 margin was. Sorry, the 2016 margin was for the former president. And now the final state. This is kind of a surprise, but not a surprise at the same time, because a lot of us saw this coming. Arizona was the most Republican out of all 7 swing states. I had actually predicted that it would either be Arizona or North Carolina. It has been Arizona by a long shot. Donald Trump has actually won Arizona in the likely column. Right now, he's up in Arizona by 6.5%. And keep in mind, Arizona is really slow at counting. They still have a lot of ballots left. They have around 17% left. Most of those do favor Republicans because they come from places like Yuma, which is very Republican, Yavapai, which is also very Republican, and a couple of the areas like Cochise. Pima is almost all in. Santa Cruz, which is the most liberal county, is all in. You have Maricopa County, which is going to continue to expand for Trump. Only 84% in. At the end of the day, I do think Trump's actually going to win Arizona by 7 points or more, which it might, I'm not saying it will, but it might carry Lake over the top. We'll really just have to wait and see. But Trump did very good in the state. We do not have the full trend map, but from trends that we do have already, he has, swung Santa Cruz County by 17 points to the right. In this state, we do have a lot more to analyze. I'm not going to look at it too much because, once again, we still have 17% of the vote left. But this is a state that Joe Biden won by 11,000 votes. One of the most heavily trending states in the country has swung completely in the opposite direction. And that's what I'm really going to leave it at now. I will go over the Senate in my next prediction, but I really appreciate you guys sticking out to this video. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Put all your comments in the section below, and I'll check you guys out in the next one.